Podcasts, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the podcast.
There are 4 lights!
Its 5-year mission to explore strange, familiar worlds, to seek out new listeners and new civilizations, to boldly go where most nerds have gone before. Join Matt and Shirley on their 5-year mission with a different guest each week as they talk about an episode of Star Trek, from the original series through Enterprise. They'll cover every episode, eventually.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to There Are 4 Lights. I'm Matt, and I'm here with Shirley.
Hello.
And this week we're joined again by Johnny Mac Brown Jr.
Hey, what's up, everybody out there in listening land?
It's the Mac Daddy, yeah.
I'm here. Holla. I'm glad to be back on the show, you guys.
Well, we're glad to have you back. You were great last time for whatever episode that was. We recorded so many of these in such a short amount of time.
It was the naked time, and I'm glad that I was, because I'm back with more tidbits and insights for tonight's episode that we're going over. So I'm excited.
I don't know if I marked you down for the naked now, so I'm going to do that now. This, my friends, listening at home, is how we do planning. Totally ahead. Oh, that's episode 2, and I did mark you down. Sweet.
Yeah.
I'm on top.
You marked them down last time when we were sitting
Well, I know,
here.
I just couldn't remember if I marked them
Internet
down.
radio at its finest, America.
Yep.
Thank you.
This is why we do what we do. Okay, so let's get into episode 9.
Whoa.
Is that right? Crap.
But it's really episode what?
I don't know.
According to
according to our Netflix, we are currently recording episode 9. Yes, episode 9. There we go. This is Miri, the episode Miri.
Yes.
So, Johnny, why don't you give us a rundown of the plot? What happened?
Okay, so basically, we'll get into the little tidbits that I know about the episode later on, but basically the gist of the plot is that the Enterprise gets a response to a distress call to a planet which actually resembles Earth pretty much, and there's a landing party which consists of Kirk and McCoy, Spock, and Janice Rand, who is a yeoman, and then of course they've got their red shirts. I think it's like 2 or 3 security guys. Anyway, they get there, and the planet seems to be deserted, but it resembles that of like 1960s Earth in almost every aspect. They're looking at a bike and some other things and just kind of exploring. The next thing you know, Kirk ends up getting into a scuffle with a man that is obviously disfigured and has some sort of mutation about him. The struggle ensues, and Kirk ends up killing the man. In the midst of all this melee, of course, there's a mysterious figure out there, dun, 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 and the team goes and investigates, and that's when they find the tutorial character of the episode, Miri, played by Kim Darby. And basically she says that she's run away from the group of adults, or as they're referred to as GURPS, which is kind of like this contraction, basically, of the word grown-ups. And that basically that they she's running away from them because they hurt children, they kill them, this, that, and the other, and that basically her and her friends are the only ones that have pretty much left after all the adults have died. So, as this episode goes on, they quickly discover that there's purple lesions. They're starting to form in their body. All of the landing party, with the exception of Spock, which appears to kind of be immune. The girl, Miri, tells them that basically, like, this is the signs of a disease that all the adults got. And then basically, in the end, they'll end up this kind of crazed monster shell of themselves, and will basically attack them or try to attack them and die. So the party sets off to look in the hospital and other places for like clues about this disease. They quickly realize that that the children haven't been affected because they haven't hit pretty much, and that basically this is kind of the side effects of an experiment that was used to prolong life. However, the side effect is that they get this purple, crazy, but ugly rash and become really crazy and just start rioting like they are in Baltimore right now and die. So that's what happens. And then basically the kids literally have kind of stopped aging for the most part. They only age at a really, really slow rate. I don't remember the rate, but basically these kids are like 3 years old.
It's 1 month per.
Yeah, it's like 1 month. Yes, 1 month per century. So like they're 300 or 400 years old. Spock kind of realizes that once the disease kind of starts, they only have 7 days, very, very ish ahead of its time. But that's kind of what happens, that pretty much they have this really short span of time before once the disease starts, from the incubation all the way down to end result of schizophrenic death, basically. And that even though he's immune, he decides that it's not a good thing for him to go back to the ship, which is very logical from Spock. Basically, as the story continues, we realize that Miri kind of has a crush on Captain Kirk, but, you know, of course, her crush kind of gets squashed when she kind of sees Kirk kind of consoling Yeoman Rand, who kind of becomes really scared and a little bit hysterical about what's going on. And so Miri, along with her friends, end up kidnapping Rand. Hilarity ensues where Kirk basically points out that she has the disease on her skin as well, and if they don't get their equipment, which has subsequently been stolen by the children as well, and Rand, that everyone could die. So they go to confront the children. The children beat Kirk down to a bloody pulp with a hammer. I mean, they just beat him down like he stole something. They was just whooping that butt. But they beat him up. He basically implores to them that, hey, if we all die, basically, the younger ones will be left alone. What food is left in the stores is pretty much gone. And pretty much the little ones will have to defend for themselves. And that they're basically no better than the savagery of the adults that were before them. So they kind of appeal to those senses to the kids. The kids relinquish. Akira is finally found. And basically Kirk is like, hey, Federation, why don't you send some teachers, some advisors, some adults to kind of guide these kids. And that is pretty much, my friends, the end of, the recap of the episode. You wrapped it up pretty good there.
Mm-hmm.
Notable guest stars.
Yes.
We'll switch over kind of there. You mentioned Kim Darby as Miri.
Yes. Kim Darby, for those out there that grew up in the 80s or like 80s films, she was the mom from the comedy starring John Cusack, Better Off Dead. She was also in Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers. She died, but she was in that. But she was a child star of the 50s and 60s, basically. You've got John.
She was in Teen Wolf.
Yeah, she was. She was in Teen Wolf 2, actually. Boom. Yeah, it was the sequel, boom. But yeah, she was in that bad boy. She was also in the stage production of Bye Bye Birdie. Have people like John Megna, who for the film To Kill a Mockingbird, which came out in like 62 or 63, somewhere in there, he played Dill, the character of Dill. So there's that. Several of the stars of the show's children were in that episode as the kids. Grace Lee Whitney, who plays Rand, her sons were in it. Roddenberry's 2 daughters were in it. Shatner's kids were in it, or his daughter was in it. Leonard Nimoy's children, they asked him to allow his kids to do it, but he wouldn't. Said he didn't want his kids to get in the business. Ironically enough, his son Adam directed an episode of either Next Gen or Deep Space Nine. So so that's that. So there's that, and then those that watched the series Mission Impossible, the old school one, Greg Morris, the star of the show, his daughter Iona, and his son Phil, not his son Ezra, but his Phil, were 2 of the child actors, and they also played in subsequent episodes of Star Trek. And then last but not least, there's Kelly Flanagan, who she is most... It escapes me now, but I might have to Google it and find out. But she's been in quite a few things, and she's character actress pretty much. And she's not one of those people that if you saw her face, you would know who she was. But yeah, that's pretty much for the most part. Those guest stars. There's a couple of other stars that were people that were character contract players that you would see quite often, like Jim Goodwin, who played, who was in Mud's Women, and I think The Enemy Within. But that was his last appearance. Actually, this episode was his last appearance. In that episode, you've got Keith Taylor, who was a replacement on the show, Leave It to Beaver. I mean, yeah, you got quite a few people that were in that bad boy. So that's pretty much it. And also, sidebar, Scotty, Sulu, and Uhura, played respectively by Nichelle Nichols, George Takei, and James Dillon, were not in this episode. They were explicably missing from it.
Yeah, I did notice that, but we've had an inconsistent crew so far.
Yeah.
So I wasn't that surprised.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've done my job for me a lot, so we'll just slide on over.
So you can find our T-shirt. No.
We'll slide on over to Strange Races, which I'm going to change into Strange Planets. Like, this wasn't Earth-like. That was Africa, and then we got to see the North America and some weird thing down by Cuba.
I can see like an Earth-like planet. But for all of the continents to have formed the same way, that just seems.
Yeah, it was a little strange. And they don't touch on it, and they're like, it's a strange planet, like a duplicate. But then they never touch on it again the rest of the episode.
Yeah, which I kind of thought was kind of weird, but then it's funny because. If you're a hardcore Trekkie like I am, and you read some of the canonized books that are part of the canon, it's really weird because two of the books, one of them mentioned that basically it's the Cry of the Onlys, I think, that basically the world is referred to as being a copy of Earth is removed, and it's basically shown that, or it's said in the book that basically it was an abandoned colony of Earth, and so therefore it was it had properties, but it wasn't really Earth-like or exact replica, and then in Christopher Bennett's Trek novel Forgotten History, it's referred to as that, like, it's actually Earth from a parallel timeline. So I really kind of, I mean, it's nice that they took liberties in the book, but I kind of wish in the show that they had, again, I think I said this in the last episode that I was on when talking about The Naked Time. I just wish they took, like, a 2-second line to, like, write in something to explain why you got this Pangea continent, basically.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And they could, honestly, I would have been happy to spend the time on a whole other episode just looking into that.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Almost definitely.
And to touch back on something you said, Adam Nimoy actually directed several episodes of The Next Generation and some, but he wanted to direct Deep Space Nine, but he didn't get to. So, all right. So back to what we were talking about. So the planet was weird. I don't know. It was important enough that they mentioned it. They could have just turned it upside down, and we probably wouldn't have noticed, and no one would have said anything. But,
yeah.
Right.
So let's move on to things that stuck out. I'm going to start this time. Not letting our guest steal this one from us. No, actually, this was our first real tricorder used.
Yeah.
Which I was excited about. We got to see McCoy and Spock using them.
Right.
So that was kind of awesome. Shirley, did you notice anything?
No.
No? Okay. Nothing at all?
No.
Not a thing.
Well, I mean, nothing out of the ordinary,
okay. Or... what about you, Johnny?
Well, I noticed that in this episode, this was our first hardcore white woman down hysterical moment.
Well, and they did say that she was going to have, they were going to have mood swings because of their condition. So I kind of wrote it off.
Don't get me wrong. That's part of it, the condition. But this was the first time that we really got to see the hysterics come from a woman, because I always find that just like a lot of the acting on the show, it is so over the top and so just beyond itself, and you got to see a little bit of kind of chemistry with Kirk and one of his female officers in a subtle way. You got to see him kind of be a little bit of that ladies' man, so I like that.
Yeah, and again, there's that tension they keep building between Kirk and Rand. This is not the first, nor will it be the last episode, I'm sure.
Right.
I don't know what else was it that I said something about.
I told you to take notes.
I know, I should have written stuff down.
Oh, and it was at the end. I said, you should write that down. You should take notes.
Really good at this. All right.
What happened at the end of the movie?
I don't know. They got back on the ship and left.
What I find is interesting is, I guess I did notice something really weird. Maybe not weird, but for the time, I mean, these kids have been taking care of themselves for, hundreds and hundreds of years, and I thought that was kind of interesting and very commendable that they weren't going to, that they just didn't scoop them up and put them on the ship, and you're going to foster care, and, because I think it's the mentality, especially today, with all of the fear, and people thinking that children can't take care of themselves, that's what people are liable to do. Oh my gosh, there's this child and they can't take care of themselves. But these children have been, on this planet for 300 years, and, being what the Enterprise was there to do, they didn't go ahead and take those steps to take the children away, but they did say, okay, we know that these children can survive, so we're just going to send reinforcements.
I did also see a lot of parallels between this and Lord of the Flies. There were a lot of definite,
right,
and I like that. It was a definite parallel that I really enjoyed. I really like that they used the storytelling themes and issues there to kind of further what's going on. I don't know. I all they really needed was a pig's head, and it would have felt almost exactly the same.
Right.
So.
And I didn't remember this episode until, or I didn't think that it was the episode that it is until they started hearing the kids. Because I remembered the girl, but I didn't remember her being part of the group.
Yeah, that nyan.
Yeah, and then once they started doing that, I was like, creepy. Oh, it's that episode.
Yeah.
And I just remember being more terrified when I was younger watching this than I was today. It just reminded me that it was for me, when I first watched it, it was a very scary episode.
Yeah. This also is the first episode where we get to realize that the uniforms are put on by a hidden zipper. Because a hidden zipper. Later, McCoy and Spock have unzipped up at their neck just a little bit, so a little more of the black undershirt is showing out. So, it's important. The town seemed a little bland.
It did. One of the things that that really stuck out to me was it kind of had that as a kid, like I didn't make the connection watching it on a rerun with my parents, because that's one of the perks of having older parents is that you get exposed to all kinds of great cinema and music sometimes if your old parents aren't old fuddy-duddies, and mine weren't. So, but I did notice the connection between the scenery in this episode and kind of it gave me a feel of the Yul Brynner movie Westworld, and that's kind of what I felt like. It was more like this abandoned amusement park situation as opposed to like a replica of Earth that had been ran down and disheveled because all of the adults were no longer present, and therefore there was there was still a functioning, but it was a very partially fringe society functioning now. So that to me was kind of one of the aspects of the set that kind of really stuck out to me as far as the aesthetics and the looks.
Okay. Yeah. It was part of the Andy Griffith set. Some of it was out. Some of the
really?
outside was redressed Andy Griffith set. It just seemed.
Yeah.
To me, and now that Johnny says it, Westworld is one of my favorite movies, and I think every time it came on late night TV, I was glued to the TV, and I don't know what it was about the movie, but I just liked it. But it also gave me a very much a Rod Serling Twilight Zone-ish kind of feeling.
There was some definite overtones.
Yeah. I did, yeah. I get that too, guys. Like, I totally felt kind of like it had that Twilight Zone kind of feel to it. But I think it was kind of, I think that was partially kind of intentional. But for me, another thing that kind of stood out about this episode was a little bit of some of the effects that they used in this episode. The signal the distress signal that you hear when you first encounter the planet. There's an episode of the Outer Limits, The Man Who Was Never Born, and you actually hear that same effect in that episode. And also in this episode, Kirk's phaser that he fires actually has a very unique sound to it. It doesn't sound like the phaser fire that you hear in previous and latter episodes, and neither does the beam effect either. They actually use the effect of the beam, if you notice, that oscillates kind of in and out when it does its phasing effect, but in this episode it doesn't. So it's stuff like that kind of, for me was kind of interesting, because they kind of tried to up their special effect game a little bit, which I appreciated, especially because they gave me that Womp Womp set. They used Mayberry, and they just threw some dust on Mayberry and was like, well, that's Earth too. And I was like, really? And also, if you notice, guys, I don't know if you noticed, but when the ship, I will say this much, going back real quick to the kind of one continent Pangea look, there weren't any clouds really on the Earth itself, which I thought was kind of interesting. And I think part of that comes from the fact that maybe they didn't use a model with clouds and someone just forgot, or I don't know, but it didn't have any clouds.
Well, you're watching the non-remastered counterpart then.
Yeah.
We on Netflix is the remastered counterpart, and it actually has all the clouds, and they remastered the whole planet, and it looks beautiful.
Oh, well, honey, guess what? Because turn up, I got the old school episodes on DVD, so that's how I do my review. So while y'all sitting on Netflix, I got to thumb through my box set of DVDs and put her in.
Did you? Were you kind? Did you rewind?
Well, these aren't VHS, darling. They are on DVD, so I didn't have to rewind. Well, no, I could take it out.
That is a good solid point. Like in 2007, CBS remastered all of the original series, and one of the big things they did on this one was they added clouds in, and it doesn't look like a painting of the world anymore. It looks like a solid, like from space view of Earth. So. Definitely a big difference.
I feel like we're spoiled then. We didn't see the original.
You could see them. If you go to memoryalpha.org and look up Miri, you can actually see the differences here. Okay. They're significant. The other thing that I found interesting, this is the kind of last bit of tidbit information I'll give you, I'll put out, is after the original airing in 1970 in the UK, which is when they originally aired the first season of the original series, Miri was one of 4 episodes that were banned in the UK until 1991.
Really?
Because they all dealt with most unpleasantly with the already unpleasant subjects of madness, torture, sadism, and disease. So it was Miri, Empath, Whom Gods Destroy, and Plato's Stepchildren. Those 4 episodes were actually banned in the UK for 21 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and actually Miri did get played, but once the BBC got complaints, they actually screened the rest of the series and pulled those other 3 episodes out and never aired them until 1991 in the UK.
Wow.
So I always feel like the UK,
odd.
like the UK and Europe is like more willing to deal with stuff like this.
Yeah.
But I guess in this case, it didn't fit with the sensibilities, and they yanked it from production.
Wow.
So, yeah, interesting enough. I thought that should be noted.
Oh yeah.
So, let's get into our reoccurring items. I really need some like bumper music. Remind me to put together some bumper music. Bones doesn't say he's dead, Jim.
No, he doesn't.
He says he's dead, but he never addresses Jim.
Yeah.
And then we don't get any I'm a doctor, not something.
Mm-mm.
We have yet to get one of those.
No, not yet.
Yeah, I thought those were going to be more prevalent. Kirk sort of got the lady, but was like in that way that children crush on older adults kind of way.
Yeah.
And he was respectful about it.
And the thing was, I found it odd. Like right after he met her, he was like, he went and sat on the arm of the chair. He was like, "You're really beautiful," and I was like, that's kind of creepy. And then I thought about it, like from a different point of view. I was like, oh, she's been alone here forever. She's acting really self-conscious and things like that.
Yeah.
And he's just trying to bolster her.
And he's trying to connect with her so that she feels like he has an interest, and he did. So it wasn't it was manipulative, but it wasn't totally horribly manipulative.
Right.
Spock was logical, said that it must be an awful burden being human. I love that.
He always says that. We need to track that.
Yeah. We lost no red shirts.
Yeah.
I was very surprised.
We didn't lose anybody.
Although having little children murder 2 guys would have seemed a little rough.
Yeah.
Pretty.
Yeah.
And then Uhura wasn't even in the episode. She didn't even answer the phone, so that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Johnny, why don't you give us your overall view of the episode and give us a rating?
You know, I have to say that for me, Miri is one of those episodes that I kind of am torn about. I love Lord of the Flies, and so I love that Lord of the Flies feeling theme. But it just kind of, I don't know, it just kind of always sits with me as an episode that is supposed to be a little bit kind of frightening, in that it's supposed to be a commentary also on youth and idleness, and I just kind of feel that at the time the message was really pertinent and relevant, but in modern times it's still relevant and pertinent, but maybe not in the same tone. So with that and just kind of a few other things, I mean, I give it a 4.5. It's a good one, but it's kind of it's a tough sell. Like I will say it's one of those episodes that's kind of hard to sit down after you've seen it the first time. So just kind of, if you want to watch Star Trek again, it's one of those that you could easily be like, I could deal with that.
So was that 4.5 out of 5?
Yeah, 4.5 out of 5.
Okay. Shirley, what'd you think?
I mean, Johnny's so good at this. I I felt until he just said that about the actual moral, because I didn't even think about the moral of the episode. Mm-hmm. Very much, he hit it right on the head. I think I feel more attached to this episode because when I saw it as a child, it scared the bejesus or the TVs out of me. Whatever. I was looking for a good word to say. It scared the pants off of me. So I think I would give it a 4.5. I don't know, 4.5 for not liking the thing. I feel like you're giving it a curve, Johnny.
Well, you don't have to give it that same curve. I am going to say this episode kept me engaged. It kept me. I knew that McCoy wasn't going to die at the end, but and I did joke about that with you a little bit, but I didn't know quite what was going to happen. I didn't know, like, the kids beat on Kirk, and I did not expect that.
Right.
Although they stopped beating on him for absolutely no reason whatsoever.
Well, I think what they tried to do with that scene is like he broke free from them because you saw him kind of come out of the crowd.
Yeah, and you know, maybe it was a bunch of kids, and it's hard to get them to follow perfect direction and make it, especially in those days.
He could have tossed every single one of those people.
Yeah, there was sufficient creepy moments. I liked the terror and horror aspect of this episode enough that it's inspiring a few thoughts of what I can do with it later. It reminded me of a movie I enjoyed well enough for Lord of the Flies that we watched for Criterion Collection for Nerds Domain. I'm just going to plug that. You can go back and listen to that episode if you want to go over there. But overall, I enjoyed it. I'm not going to go nearly as high as you guys. 4.5 to me is something phenomenal, and this was good but not phenomenal. So I'm going to go with a solid 3, better than average. I've not seen an episode I don't like yet, so I'm sure they're coming. I'm just clicking down the days. I know there are some in Next Generation that are just rough.
Yeah.
And then there's a whole series of Voyager that I can't stand. So I'm looking for
what ifs.
If you guys wanted to know why we're doing it, season 1, all of them, it's because I don't have to watch 7 seasons of Voyager in a row.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Johnny, anywhere we can follow you? Any Twitters that you're doing? Any tweeting?
Well, right now I'm actually in the process of putting together a fan Facebook page and Twitter and all that stuff because I got some projects that are actually coming up that I'm very excited about. So, yeah, and I'll be talking more about those hopefully in future episodes with you guys and other things, but yeah, I can't. I'll tell you guys off the air, but I can't talk about it too much.
No, I understand.
One project, I'm so excited about it, and even though it'll be a minute before this airs, but no, but yeah, I'm doing that, and I will. It looks like that I will come September officially. The first edition of my comic book Titans will actually be in print. Thank you, Jesus.
Nice.
Right on.
It's only taken 1,000 years. Yeah, it's only like 40 years. I've been writing it since the 80s or something. I don't know. But
right on.
People can go to Facebook and they can actually look up Underground Comics, and that's comics spelled, and they can click on the link to the Titans Facebook page and start finding more information about that. I'll actually start updating that here in a couple of days or a couple of weeks or so. So yeah, I'm excited about that. Well,
great. So you guys can find Johnny over there on Facebook. That sounds great. That was Underground Comics with an X, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you can find us a bunch of other places, but we have an outro for that now that I need to remember. So we will talk to you guys real soon.
And that'll do us tonight for
There Are 4 Lights.
Remember, you can email us at thereare4lightspodcast@gmail.com or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/nerdsdomain, on Twitter at nerdsdomain, or over at our site, nerdsdom.com. Be sure to sign up for the newsletter while you're there. You can head over to iTunes and give us a 5-star rating. A big thanks to 5 Year Mission for their music. You can find them at 5yearmission.net. Don't forget you can support us at patreon.com/nerdsdomain. And check out our shirts at /loot.